Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, great. And will you do a roll call, please?
Lyle.
Here.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Cook.
Here.
S. Cortade.
Here.
M. Cortade.
Here.
Walters.
Present.
And Friend.
Here. All right, great. With that, we'll take a look at the agenda. We have in front of us consent agenda and business before the Township Board. We have a resolution of support for a collaborative agreement for the repair of Township Road. And we have the Grand Traverse County Road Commission Holiday Woods Agreement, 3 Mile Trail public funding, planning and zoning position of a planning and special projects coordinator, and East Bay Ambulance Station 9 renovation. Under the consent agenda, we have East Bay Ambulance, Michigan Rural Field Office, Memorandum of Understanding, an ambulance repair, Beach District, Beta Wrap, bus purchase, or not a bus purchase, but a advertising purchase, assessing pivot point purchase, early voting, election voting booths purchase, part-time buildings and groundskeeper, and assessing administration specialist offer of employment. Are there any conflicts of interest?
No conflict of interest, but where are we going to add the part-time ambulance staff?
Yeah, I think we can just go ahead and add the part-time ambulance staff under consent agenda under East Bay Ambulance. And that is 3 letters for part-time employment that we have received, and we'll update that in the packet as well online. And I do declare a conflict of interest as I do live in the Holiday Woods Special Assessment District. So with that, is there a motion to accept my conflict?
A motion to accept the conflict for Friend.
Do you support that? Okay, the motion is made by Cortade and supported by Walters. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Let's see. Also, okay, we'll look for approval of the agenda then, with the addition of the part-time offers of employment for the East Bay Ambulance. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Okay, a motion by Walters and support by Cook. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by no? All right, we have an agenda. Public comment. This is the time for public comment, and we have a long list of rules for public comment, but if you could kind of give us the brief rundown there, Ann, that would be great.
Sure. The purpose of public comment is to give members of the public an opportunity to express their views and opinions to the members of the board. To maintain order and ensure fairness to every speaker, the following rules must be followed during public comment. Approach the podium, introduce yourself, and state your name and address. You'll be limited to 3 minutes and only allowed to speak once on the same matter. Communication, if you previously emailed, is not necessary to read aloud. And public comment time may not be given to any other member of the public. When your time is at 2 minutes, 30 seconds, you'll be alerted with a yellow signal, and when it's at red, you'll be alerted to conclude your comments. That's a good synopsis.
We keep your tax dollars down with that lovely signaling system, so with that, we'll ask if there's any public comment. Feel free to come to the podium and let us know your perspective. Hi, how are you?
My name is Lisa Trombley. I live at 7961 East Shore Road in Peninsula Township. And first of all, I would just like to say thank you all for your commitment to the community and your diligence in doing the business of this wonderful township. Secondly, I would like to say I would like to join you in that endeavor. I am running for the state representative position that would represent this township. I am doing so. I retired up here 5 years ago. Absolutely love. I think we live in a little slice of heaven up here and would love to keep all of the goodness of that going. I'm focused in 3 areas. First of all, I believe Lansing needs to keep its focus on the things that are statewide and not have significant overreach in areas, for example, education, or excuse me, for in energy where there are some mandates driving forward that might not be completely reasonable to implement, which causes some other unnatural things to happen. The economy is a key area where we must make sure we enable businesses. We are blessed with a wide range of wonderful businesses in the area, and without businesses being able to do their work, people do not have the opportunity to have the jobs. They can't put food on the table, gas in their tanks, and live the lives that we all aspire to live. And thirdly, it would be our rights, whether it's individual property or parental, keeping focused on those and enabling everyone to have those. So I look forward to listening into the business of the evening. Thank you all for what you do.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hi, how are you?
Well, thank you. Pull this up a little bit. Hi, I'm Jill Sill. I live at 560 Island View Drive, Grand Traverse County resident, but Whitewater Township. Used to live in East Bay. I'm here as a parent, a community member, and the executive director of Norte Youth Cycling. I'm here to express my gratitude to East Bay Township for your significant momentum and the improvements you have brought to the township, from the Thursday farmers market to the recent geocaching that I saw, the potential East Bay Corners Public Square, and the upcoming conversations regarding the Beach District. It's clear you are implementing projects that will connect those who live here and those that will visit our region. These projects are transforming the area to be more than an intersection or a drive-through. It's transforming this region to be a community center and a place where people can move through the community by bike, by foot, and by car, which is important as well. I used to live in the neighborhood just behind here when my children were little. We visited the library countless times, shopped at Olson's, purchased plants from Roy's, had our passports renewed right here at the township offices, but we never did any of these on foot, and we always drove. The infrastructure did not safely support walking or riding bicycles to access these community resources. In addition to sharing my gratitude to the township, I'm also here to express my enthusiasm and full support of the 3 Mile Trail project and my support for the township to contribute financially to this key connector. Trails are public health infrastructure. They help us tackle the big problems: physical health, mental health, climate change, economic development, and equity and access issues. The track record of the township to support better non-motorized transportation is impressive. Thank you. In 2006, you supported Safe Routes to School that Norte was a partner in. In 2020, you launched the 3 Mile Trail and Connectivity Plan, and in 2024, you supported TAP and MNRTF applications for the 3 Mile Trail. I think it's the time to keep going. With your financial support of the 3 Mile Trail, you'd be helping to complete a project nearly 20 years in the making, with the first phase of 3 Mile Trail opened in 2006. So a lot of people in the community have been waiting for a long time, very hopeful to see this next step completed, and I think that we can do this. You'd also be supporting the priorities of your residents. 80% of your respondents were supportive of developing more sidewalks and pathways, connecting neighborhoods and schools. 72% desired bike lanes throughout the township, and 75% were supportive of sidewalks along both sides of county highways. It's my understanding that this is the first time East Bay Township has been asked to financially support the project. I urge you to consider the positive and lasting generational impacts a financial gift would have by contributing to the 3 Mile Trail project. Public-private partnerships have the power to move the needle for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment? Hi, Chris.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thanks. I'm Chris Sullivan. I'm My address is 10567 White Pine Road, Interlochen, Michigan. I'm also the Director of Land Protection for the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy, and I was here for the Scout Camp Road public hearing and missed the memo that it was canceled. So I get to follow Jill with my makeshift notes in support of the 3-mile trail funding project. And the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy office is just down the road on 3 Mile. We acquired, it's on the Mitchell Creek Meadows Nature Preserve. We acquired it in 2019. But before we even finished the acquisition of that initial property, we jumped on the opportunity to purchase the 38 acres adjoining it to the north, understanding that that parcel was critical for any future trail linkages to extend the TART Trail out to Hammond, to extend our trail system on our preserve, to eventually link up to our Refit Nature Preserve across the railroad tracks from the state park. You know, beyond that, we designed the preserve, the Mitchell Creek Meadows Trail system to incorporate the TART extension running through it. We have been at the table with TART and East Bay Township officials to discuss, you know, happy to grant a trail easement through our property for the extension. We're very excited about the idea of linking schools along this corridor in a way that doesn't involve school buses, those non-motorized connectors. And really, it's one of the things I think that's unique about the possibility of running this trail through our property is that it gets it off 3 Mile Road, and like many of the really most scenic and most enjoyable sections of the TART Trail, it would be a section of trail that goes through the woods, natural habitat, wildlife, and you know, we have proudly partnered with East Bay Township before on recreational development, the acquisition of Holiday Woods, and appreciate all that East Bay Township, TART, Norte have done for recreation and non-motorized connection, and want to support that. And I think I guess want to you know, sort of wrap it up by saying that you know, we don't talk about having the Conservancy office down the road. It is the McMullen Family Conservation Center, and the choice of that name was intentional to bring a sense of education, stewardship, public engagement, and community involvement. And the opportunity to work with East Bay Township and TART to bring the trail through our property to connect, to provide this non-motorized connection within the community is something that's really important to us. So I'm here to offer my, my heartfelt enthusiasm for the township and TART continuing to work together to make that a reality.
Thank you, Chris. Further public comment? Okay, we will move on. The board has correspondence and reports in their packet. Those are there for your review. You also have on your desk some letters that came in recently. I think there's about 5 or so there, but you've received those via email, so it's just a paper copy for your convenience. Let's see. We will move on to the consent agenda. Ann, do you want to go over the consent agenda?
Certainly. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one board motion without discussion. Any member of the board, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent agenda, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single board action adopting the consent calendar. This evening, you have board minutes from April 8th, 2024. Recommend approval. In the general fund, check numbers 18606 through 18695, paid in the amount of $230,704.46. Check number 18637 voided, and check numbers 18455 and 18451 were previously approved. The emergency fund, checks numbers 5602 through 5631, paid in the amount of $34,794.41. Check numbers 5611 through 5617 were voided due to a print error, and check numbers 5453 and 5463 were lost and previously approved. Check numbers 2936 through 2938 for the receiving fund in the amount of $64,559.93. The escrow fund, check numbers 2003 through 2011 for $12,854.34. And the roads SAD fund, check number 116 for $97,234.38. There were 3 payrolls, March 24th through April 6th, check number 7675 through 7677, totaled $65,961.52. Payroll dated April 7th through April 20th, check number 7675 through 7683, check number 7683 voided, and it totaled $59,391.66. And the payroll dated April 21st through May 4th, check number 7684 through 7687, totaled $64,414.07. Total payroll, $189,767.25, and total amount paid, $629,915.27. Proposed budget adjustments, BA 2024-01 through 2024-06. Other items, East Bay Ambulance, Michigan Rural EMS Field Office Project Memorandum of Understanding, ambulance repair, and part-time staff. You have the Beach District Beta Wrap purchase, assessing pivot point purchase, and early voting election booth purchase.
And we also have on there a part-time buildings and groundskeeper and assessing administration specialist offer of employment. And those, and you would have, they were put on after, as I was doing the packet, and Sue had the financials. So those 2 are on there as well, but the board has seen those on their agenda. With that, is there anything that any member of the board would like removed off the consent agenda?
Yes, I'd like number 1, 4, and 5 removed.
All 3 items under number 1?
No, I'm just interested in I
The Michigan Rural EMS Field Office?
for the project, yes.
Okay, so, and what were the other numbers, Glenn?
4 and 5.
4 and 5. Okay, so we will remove from the consent calendar the East Bay Ambulance Michigan Rural EMS Field Office Project Memorandum of Understanding, the early voting election voting booths purchase, and the part-time buildings and groundskeeper. All right, well, thank you for that. Is there any member of the public who would like anything removed from the consent agenda? Okay, we'll bring that back to the board. Is there a motion for the consent agenda with those 3 items removed? Don't all jump at once.
I'll make a,
Thank you. I was going to if you didn't, so very good. I'll support it. How's that? Motion by Cook, support by Friend. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Ann?
Cook.
yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Lyle.
No,
Walters. Yes. M. Cortate.
Yes.
S. Cortate.
Yes.
Okay, very good. We will put those 3 items, we'll put the ambulance item with the 8E. And we will put the voting booths after that at G. And H, we will have as the buildings and groundskeeper. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, we'll move forward with that. Sure.
Just want to make sure. The 4 was the assessing pivot point purchase, and 5 was the election voting equipment, is that right? Are those the ones that you asked for? You didn't ask for the part-time employment, right?
No, I didn't ask for 3.
You got a different.
Well, there's two different,
There's-
there's 2 different numbering systems
Because of
going
the,
on.
Yeah.
I just
let me
wanna
see
make
what you've
sure
got
we
there,
get it right.
Glenn. You,
Oh, I-
just, what's the topic that you have on your paper?
Okay, I got East Bay Ambulance. Number 4 is the voting booths. Number 5 is part-time building and grounds.
Okay, so then, like, again, we'll put the rural EMS memorandum of understanding with the Station 9 renovation, and that will be F. G will be the early voting, and H will be the buildings and grounds, part-time. Okay? All right, thank you for the clarification. With that, we will move on to the business before the Township Board, 8A, resolution of support for a collaborative agreement, easy for me to say, for the repair of Township, of Town Line. I have Township on there, don't I, guys? Of Town Line Road, there's a little typo there. I type Township a million times a day, so no doubt I would make that error. Dan Watkins is here from the Grand Traverse County Road Commission. Dan, you want to come up and just join us for a second? So does anybody have at their fingertips what page we are starting on this on?
38.
Very good, thank you. 38. Okay, so this project is Town Line Road from South Airport to Hammond Road. It's been in disrepair, which it talks about in the cover sheet. And recently, we've just kind of been networking, been talking with Dan, talking with Supervisor Korn from Garfield Township, Kevin Klein from the Airport Authority, and as well Nate Alger and the chair of the Rob Henschel from the Board of Commissioners. Those conversations were more general, not specifically with Town Line Road, just about the county and potential, perhaps, if there were valid and good projects brought forward that they might consider. So with that, the rest of us, Chuck Korn and Kevin and Dan and I, got together and put together this resolution. Dan was getting together some funding for it, but there was quite a large gap. So he had approached Garfield and East Bay Township, and we suggested using our accumulated match that the road commission puts aside. While that is still road commission money, it's a different pot of money that he was looking for. He was looking for what your where would that funding come from? Your regular, are you using millage?
Probably a combination.
Millage and Act 51 money, sure. But there was still a gap, so this is another pot that he wasn't accessing until the three of us had talked about it. So that would put another, gosh, what did it come to, about 310,000, was it? Yeah, towards it, which is great. And then if we pass this resolution, the Road Commission has passed a resolution that's included 2024-04-07 that kind of lays out the process. After they pass it, going to the two townships, then going to the Airport Authority, and then going to the Board of Commissioners. So if this passes tonight, then tomorrow night, it will be with Garfield Charter Township at their meeting, and then following that, will be at the Airport Authority.
The big push for Town Line Road, it wasn't even really on the radar. 3 Mile was supposed to be done this year, but since they were doing the Parkway, I thought it made sense to try to push that back a year. And when I looked at that, I was like, wait a minute, when we close 3 Mile down, where's everybody gonna go? They're gonna go to Town Line, it's not gonna be able to handle that. So 3 Miles is gonna be in '25, and then in '26, we're doing the Hammond from Town Line up past the schools. So we'll be closing both those sections down 2 years consecutively, and probably everybody's gonna head down Town Line. So we decided that maybe we should look at that and try to get that in shape before we work on those projects.
Definitely. And Town Line isn't a good candidate for a special assessment district. So, trying to come up with the funding in another way would be beneficial. This resolution goes over the condition of it, goes over the support of it, And then resolves that our township would support repairing Town Line Road, that portion from South Airport to Hammond, that we would agree to utilize our accumulated local, it's easy for me to say, local road match funds. Again, ours are at 150-some thousand. I believe I have that in the cover sheet. And Garfield Township's is just over 160,000. So Chuck Corn and I drew straws and decided to go with 160, right in the middle. That means we'll just have to put a couple thousand from our general fund in there, but we do have that. We will have, depending on how many times we brine, we'll probably have some extra money in there, our regular road line item designation in the general fund. So it's not an issue coming up from the 155 up to the 160. And then this resolution also encourages the airport authority to declare support, and then encourages the, with our partners of the Road Commission, Garfield Township, and the Airport Authority encourages the Board of Commissioners to partner with funding assistance in that segment with some gap funding. Are there questions regarding this?
I got, number one, this a primary road?
It's not, it's a local.
It's not a primary. And why wouldn't we do a special assessment on it?
There's a tremendous amount of traffic on this. There's very few road owners, and it's going to be quite expensive. So what we've seen when you have a major road like that, like Holiday Road, where a lot of people use it, those individual homeowners don't want to pay for that improvement when so much of the public is utilizing that. So that would be a very tough sell through a special assessment district.
Okay, have we done a traffic study to see how many cars, because when you say there's a lot of cars using it, I use it a lot of times. If I'm coming across to go down to Costco, there's nobody on that road, and I understand why. I mean, the road it's running through a swamp. And,
I don't have recent studies. Obviously, when we fix the road, it's probably going to go up from there, but the main thing we're going to see a lot of traffic, I think, is when we close 3 Mile and Hammond down both those years. So I think that's going to be the bypass.
okay.
Yep. Other questions?
Well, has the airport been approached to kick any money into it? I
They
mean,
sure
we've
have. They sure have. At first, the common knowledge was that Airport Authority really can't spend money off of their property. However, they are reinvestigating that and doing everything they can through the FAA to be able to put some funding towards it. Now, they should know the answer to that by the time this gets to their board meeting, which is in the end of May, I think. They'll definitely know, they believe, by the time of the Board of Commissioners meeting. Kevin Klein was quite happy that we were all looking at collaborating to try to get this done. Obviously, it's an important road to the Airport Authority, and was not only interested in supporting it, but he was also interested in potentially partnering with some of that funding gap. Probably, while we don't know the exact numbers, probably along the lines of what the townships are doing, so in that neighborhood.
Okay, so if we pass this resolution, or is this going to come back to this board for final approval for the amount of money that's being spent?
Well, with this resolution, it says that we will be committing $160,000 for the township, and our funding is coming from the accumulated local road match, and then we'll have that difference between 155,700 and 160,000, so about $4,000. 4,300 will come out of our general fund. So it wouldn't come back before us. We would commit for that funding. If it takes off, great, they'll utilize it. If this doesn't work out and they don't do the road, well, then this would sit in our accumulated local road match.
4,300 you said is coming out of our general?
Yeah,
Where's the rest of it coming out of?
the accumulated local road match. that the road commission keeps for the
Road Commission
townships.
sets $500,000 aside every year to partner up with townships, and it's allocated by roads, so each township gets a portion of that. And we're just asking for East Bay and Garfield's portion.
So
set
remember,
aside towards that.
it's been a bit that the road commission came to us and said they were changing how they do SADs.
Okay, yep. No,
Now you're
Okay.
recalling, yep. They used to have that block of money, and it was first come, first serve. They've taken that block of money, and now they dedicate it to township specific.
The only problem that I have is for years, we've been talking about that, so Costco and the airport and everybody went in there, because people, what was always said is they come up from the airport and they see that road is bad, which I understand. I would like to see the Visitors Bureau, which gets 5% of every room night in Grand Traverse County from the hotels, and the airport step up and put some money into this. That, if everybody's contributing, I don't really have a problem with it. But if there's three of us contributing and everybody else is getting the advantage of it, I do have a problem with it.
So as the time, you'll see the timeline that's laid out in the resolution as well. I believe it's in the cover sheet. But when the meetings fall, first it was the road commission. We wanted to get it to the road commission and make sure it was a potentially viable partnership. And then we went with the timing of the remaining meetings. Ours came next, then Garfield's, then the airport authority. You're right, we are partnering. It will be funding from East Bay through their accumulated match, Garfield through their accumulated match, the road commission through funding, and again, the airport is trying to access funding and was more than proactive in suggesting that and trying to engage with the FAA on trying to release those funds so they could spend them off the site of the airport. I think that's a pretty big step compared to what I've seen happen before. The only thing that you've mentioned that is not in that mix is the Traverse City Convention Bureau, and nothing in this resolution stops us from reaching out subsequent to this meeting to them to ask if their funding allows for that.
Nothing stopped us from asking for it, but once we pass it, we're committed.
Well,
So
sure.
why would they, if all three of us come up with the money, why would they even want to put any money in?
Because this isn't a done deal yet. We're only the second step in this. So yes, we can contact them after this resolution and say, how about joining the partnership and the collaboration? But someone has to be the leader in taking the collaboration forward. And so the road commission's done that, and we're doing that.
Okay. Thank you.
I've got a couple of questions. So, remind me, I don't have my board packets from months ago, but didn't we just have a plan for this calendar year put in front of us that had 3 Mile being done this year? Wasn't that the plan originally?
Yeah, originally the plan was to do 3 Mile. When they decided to do Parkview, they decided that 3 Mile, they put as the alternative truck route, so all that traffic is getting pushed up 3 Mile.
Okay.
But if we had it closed, then we're going to have a gridlock.
I get that, but I mean, weren't they talking about the Grandview Parkway project for like 2 years planning? I mean, didn't somebody know this, or was it just an oversight on somebody's part to plan 3 Mile? Because this was just presented to us in December or January as the plan for this year, right?
Yeah, so I've only been the manager since the first of the year. When I
Okay.
came in, I realized all this, and then that's when I started taking
Okay.
action of
All
saying,
right.
hey, wait a minute, we're going to cause a real problem here. Then we started looking at town line and going through, so that's kind of when it came to light, is when I took this position. in the
Okay.
first of the year.
And I definitely support it getting done. It needs to be done. It's an eyesore, especially coming to the airport. Along the lines of the project itself, what is the project? Because what we were presented for a 2025 plan for Town Line was going to be a pretty extensive upgrade to drainage and everything else, like the full deal. Is that what's being presented, or is this just a repave?
Yeah, well, that's what we're trying to do right now. The biggest holdup is with Eagle. There's a huge culvert through there.
Okay.
So trying to get that culvert replaced is part of that right now.
Is, under this plan, is this is actually going to be accomplished this year?
That's our goal.
Okay.
Yep.
And what's the total project cost?
I think we were coming in over 2 million.
2 million.
Total
Wow.
project.
Okay. Kind of along the same lines as what Glenn's saying is I would be inclined to support this. I think it's a great idea, but could we somehow make the approval contingent on the airport coming up with some funding?
You know, we absolutely could do that. That's something the township board could do. However, what I would say is they are limited by FAA, and they dictate what they can or can't spend money on, just like the Act 51 agency. And I would hate to see a project not happen because of $200,000 that the FAA was going to do, when it may be possible that the road commission picks that up, or another funding partner such as Traverse City Convention Bureau picks that up. So, I mean, I would just like to see if this, look, regardless of how it goes through, we're capping our commitment to it.
Sure.
So it's not as if we're saying if they don't receive it that we're increasing our portion of a commitment.
Right.
You know, it's just, can they put the funding pieces together with our commitment at 160?
Yeah, and obviously you can make the argument that everybody in the community benefits, that uses the road at some point, to see it improved. But, the airport, I think, has probably got a lot to gain here by having
Oh,
an
sure.
improvement. They're trying to market an industrial park or a technology park over there on some of their property, some other things that would probably make it look a little better and more marketable. So they've got, some upside here to have this done. So it'd be nice to see some contribution. Is there, in this plan, is there anything that's being done? I mean, do you know if the road level's being raised? I know there at South Airport, there's crosswalk signs, but they're usually sitting, 6 or 8 inches underwater. Is all that going to be straightened out where it can actually be used and
We
functional?
were looking at putting some curb down there at that end.
Okay.
Overall, because it is built on a swamp, I think we're gonna have to dig out, that's why the cost is so high on that. We're gonna have to dig out that mucky mud stuff and try
Okay.
to replace that with gravel to get the road base back to a solid state.
Well, I think I asked this question because I was really digging in the last time this was presented as the plan for 2025, and why don't we do it now? And I asked the question, how old is the pavement that's there now? And I don't remember the response. I got 25, 30 years old, maybe longer. I guess I was trying to make the argument that, why go with a $2 million gold-plated, for lack of a better word, installation if it made it that long under just a standard paving, older, best practices? Why not just repave it, save some money, and let's get another 30 years out of it, or 20?
I would say a lot of the added cost there is putting shoulders on there, which I know East Bay is a big fan of putting the shoulders on there. Helps the road last a lot longer, but I think that also is gonna help there. You're starting to see a lot of foot traffic down through there. Myself, I live in East Bay Township. I'm noticing kids from the new apartment complex across the road coming home from work, running across Hammond Road. I don't know if they're heading up to Costco to get a candy bar or something like that, so. it's
I
probably-
think we'll also be seeing potentially quite a bit more traffic on that road once it's done with the distribution center or logistics center that they have going in adjacent to the Costco. So,
Plans of a subdivision there, well, at some point?
well, on the East Bay side, likely. I don't know if that'll access through 3 Mile though, or what, but that traffic that will be heading to a logistics center could, probably be the semis that are loaded and so forth, so. Yeah,
Another
fun.
question that came to mind. If we do that road, can you put a load limit on it? For the simple fact that being down through the swamp, those heavy loads are just gonna push down on that road. I mean, I can remember times that when we got a lot of water, it was across the whole road down there by where you walk in for the conservation part there. And I'm just, when I'm sitting here thinking about it, we're talking about it, that, having those big trucks, especially if it's a new road, you got all the semis coming in, maybe a lot of them go to the Costco, a lot of them go to some of the places on Airport Road. is there, by law, can you put a weight limit on that road?
I'm sure we can have our engineering staff look into that, take a look at it. I know during like frost laws, that's not going to be a Class A road, so South Airport's going to be the main for the trucks during those seasons where it's actually, you know,
I'm talking about year-round.
yeah,
not
year round.
just-
Yeah, I'd have to check with my engineering department on
Okay.
that.
That's a definitely an interesting suggestion and observation. And I think that's good to ask them. Though, you know, I think essentially in the end, we have to defer to the engineers and the traffic engineers who are the experts on the road design and what could or couldn't go on that road.
Let's go ahead.
Well, I just want to thank you, Dan. You know, I've been pushing for the 3-mile fix since the north end was fixed. So that's been a lot of years. And to hear it put off, it kind of a little disheartened, but this road needs to be repaired. And I'm glad someone has the foresight, and thank you to all of you who've been involved with it to get this done, because it really is. And as far as traffic on that road, it may not have much traffic as you might think, but it's got a lot more than it has in the past. And it's going to get more and more every day. I use it once a week, and it just needs to be done. It's a horrible road. And from what I'm gathering here, for our donation of like $4,300, we're getting a hell of a deal. And I appreciate the fact that someone sat down and discussed it and got it straightened around. Good job.
Appreciate that.
Okay, is there this would start with resolution number 10, but first let me ask, are there other questions?
One last one.
Sure.
Is there going to be any, upside from a cost savings, you know, getting it done 1 year earlier to not have crews out there patching, you know, 6, 8, 10 times a year?
I think that's light.
Yeah, definitely. But the way we're seeing the trends are going, next year it'll cost even more to have the asphalt road done. So the height of our MTF funding is probably in the 2000s, and they say what we have right now is about 40% of our purchasing power of what we used to have, and we actually could, and we have the same amount of funding coming in. So next year, you know, it'll probably be even less and less, because prices just keep going up on asphalt, so mobilization, fuel costs, everything is really, really hurting us to the ability of how many actual lane miles we can put down a year.
You know, you'll be happy to know with the 3-mile road portion that they're putting up till next year, they do have grant funding for
Yeah, that's a Fed aid project.
that, so.
And I did get permission from the feds to delay that by 1 year, and when it said, this is delayed because of your project out in the state, they're like, oh yeah, we should have thought of that ourselves.
Well, and I would like to say I'm glad to hear the town line may get improved through this, and the 3-mile will get improved, because quite frankly, I don't take those two roads. I go around as much as I can because they're not particularly great. So, yeah, Mindy.
I would like to say that I like the truck traffic on 3-mile before we fix it.
Yeah.
Is there a
I'll make a motion
motion?
to approve resolution 20-24, I'm sorry, 2024-10, resolution of support for a collaborative agreement for repair of Town Line Road.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Walters and support by M. Cortade. Any further discussions? And we'll do a roll call vote.
Walters.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. All right, very good. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you for being here, and thank you for that. Next, I am conflicted out on the Holiday Woods agreement. If you have any specific, well, I'll let, these two ladies are familiar with the project, so I will just excuse myself. Thank you.
So we need to appoint a chair.
I think it's gone really well with Mindy. You've done a great job so far, Mindy. Let's continue.
Okay, so the Grand Traverse County Road Commission has put out for for bid the Holiday Woods Special Assessment District and awarded the contract to Molon for $389,667.05. As you might recall, we have Grand Traverse County Road Commission participating at the 25% level, and East Bay Township has said that they would do 10% or no more than $42,843.10. So what we have in front of us today is an agreement to fund the construction costs, with the township at the level of $42,843.10, or this could be slightly less. In your packet today, you have a copy of the agreement. I do have a question, though. It does have it being signed by Beth Friend, even though she's conflicted. How can she sign it?
She's conflicted on the deliberation part, but it's still her statutory duty
Okay.
to be the signer.
Okay.
Agreements, yeah.
And again, this was included in the budget as approved in November of 2023 for this year.
So I will make a motion moving to authorize East Bay Charter Township to execute the Grand Traverse County Road Commission Holiday Woods Roadways Overlay Improvement Agreement to fund construction costs.
Second.
We have a motion by S. Cortade and support by M. Cortade to authorize East Bay Township to execute the Grand Traverse County Road Commission Holiday Woods Roadways Overlay Improvement Agreement and fund construction costs. This is not a resolution, right? So we just need a roll call, or all in favor? Is that
I
correct?
think because it's money, I would still do a roll call.
Resolution? Okay. Roll call, please.
S. Cortade?
Yes.
M. Cortade?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Lyle?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
And Walters.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the 3 Mile Trail public funding, and we have Julie Clark with Chart here and Elizabeth Calcutt. Julie, how are you this evening? Great, you have a presentation for us?
I do, thank you. Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be with you all again this evening. Thanks. I'm Julie Clark. I'm the CEO of Tart Trails, and I am not an unfamiliar face to all of you, and neither is this project. So I'll try to be quick and do some summaries, because I always like to go back in time to move forward. So just a recap of why we're here. We've been before you multiple times in the past year, and it's because we've been working on a project that's been underway, as Jill Sill mentioned, for about 20 years now. 2006, that first phase of 3 Mile Trail was opened. It was part of the road project and improvement work that was done up between the State Park and Parsons Road and South Airport Road. So that piece got done. 2008, it was supposed to be extended. We were just talking about 3 Mile road improvements that are expected to be coming. Those do not include the same type of improvements that came along in 2006. So there was no additional right-of-way purchased by the Road Commission for a room for a trail as it went south. So we spent from about 2007 to 2019 trying to figure out where 3 Mile would connect, because the goal was always to get to this group of schools, right? There are 7 different schools around this area, some of our biggest with Cherry Knoll and East Middle School, Elizabeth Seton, all right here next to your facilities. So we worked, couldn't figure out a way. I remember having a lot of meetings with Glenn trying to figure out what we were going to do. And so we waited. We talked, and the schools talked, and we waited. And then in 2019, Chris alluded to it in his comments, the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy was able to pick up a pretty impressive piece of property that was a missing puzzle piece in how we might put together the 3 Mile Trail. Tart Trails worked to pick up another piece of property just to the north of that, which would provide a direct connection between the South Airport Road Trail ending and then the property that the Conservancy picked up. We all got together in 2020. Wow, lots of things happened in 2020. It's a bit of a blur, but it was East Bay Township, Tart Trails, the Regional Land Conservancy, and Norte to kick off a planning process to figure out where 3 Mile Trail would go and how we might utilize the Conservancy's property. We went through a pretty extensive public input process, and we knew that we'd be stronger together, and we found a way to get a conceptual alignment there, and then also a smaller non-motorized transportation plan that showed how the trail would connect to both safe routes to school as well as future developments that we know are going to be happening here in East Bay Township. So in 2022, with your approval, we moved forward with OHM, who is the engineering firm that was hired to do the plans, so the detailed construction documents for the trail based off of the conceptual alignment that was approved in 2021. And then we have the fun part of trying to figure out how much this all costs and put those funding pieces together. And just like the trail itself, I will say the funding puzzle is just as complicated. And that's what we're here to talk to you tonight about. Echo, I won't have to really echo much because Jill spoke to it rather eloquently, and this project is something that has been desired and articulated and very enthusiastically asked for by the community. We've had a very engaged public, both at the open houses for the trail itself, as well as in the planning efforts that the township has put forward. So both the recreation plan, as well as your master plan, speak to residents' strong desires for more non-motorized connections, safe ways for their kids to get to school, to get to play, to get to shopping, just a way to get outside and stay healthy, active, and connected. So just a reminder of where we are. We are not along 3 Mile Road. We looked along 3 Mile Road. We looked along 3 Mile Road between 2009 and 2019. And it wasn't going to happen. It's very wet right along the roadway, so the same type of infrastructure would have been required unless the Road Commission really did make right-of-way improvements and do some significant work on the road. That didn't happen. And I would argue that what we got instead is probably one of the most scenic, safe, and comfortable ways that we could ever dream of connecting to this area south of Hammond Road. Chris spoke to it. It's gorgeous. If you can picture what, the Boardman Lake Loop looks like, it's that same quality and feeling and the same service that you get. And we know that on like the Acme Connector Trail and the Boardman Lake Loop, we are seeing high traffic counts, and we are also seeing a lot of people using those corridors for commuting. Whether they're going to Oriana to pick up groceries, they're going to the library. That is a hot place. If you're going there in the middle of the afternoon, you're going to see little tykes on it all the time as they go to story time at the library. You'll also see Norte's camps using those trails all year long. So we know that they are recreation, that's definitely what they are, but they're a huge transportation corridor. And what we've been able to do with the design in this trail in particular that we haven't had the opportunity in others is actually plan for some of that non-motorized connectivity with Norte. So the north parking lot, for example, that's planned in this project has a way for buses to come in, pick kids up, drop off. We work closely with Beta to make sure that this can also be a stop for them as well. So we are excited about the opportunities for this trail to be a really direct conduit to the schools and to all the after-school programming. We are also trying to figure out how we get this thing constructed. It's very wet. It's very beautiful in there. And it comes with complications and constructability. I will say that, Mindy, you probably know this, there's nothing engineers can't do. They know how to get through these type of areas, and they know how to do it well. But it does affect how we try to put this project together. So we tried to kind of attack it all at once, get the whole thing constructed all the way from South Airport Road
to the Safe Routes to School infrastructure that's along Hammond. That may or may not happen. We have submitted trust fund grants for the north side. That's where they're focused on. But it is likely that we will be chunking this into 2 construction phases. That is not definite yet. We're working with our funding partners at DOT and DNR to see what might work. But what you're seeing tonight is our best guess scenario at how we might break up the 2 sections. Because when you build something, you want it to function, right? You want it to work and serve while it's open, even though it might not be connecting to something else. So from the south, you can go from the Hammond Road, that's where the Safe Routes to School infrastructure picks up. We would be using the intersection at 3 Mile and Hammond until we work with the Road Commission to figure out exactly where we'll be crossing. So that is continued conversations with the Road Commission as they approach Hammond Road. There have been a lot of conversations about what that crossing looks like, and we're continuing to partner with them. And then that would take you right to the parking lot that the Conservancy has already constructed. We do some minor improvements on that, so there would be an existing trailhead hosted by the Conservancy that folks could use to get to schools and to participate in, after schools activities as well. And then that second phase, the red phase, is the north one. This is again where the trust fund projects, the 2 grants that went in, were really concentrated on the north. And that again creates a direct connection from South Airport Road where the current 3 Mile trail ends. And it takes you again to that same parking lot that the Conservancy has. It would also add another parking lot, a northern parking lot that I mentioned. So we're really excited. What will drive these discussions is the successful applications of those grants. That'll really tell us where we'll be directing dollars. So let's talk about the dollars. These numbers have been before you before. We have been working with OHM for over a year now. We're at about 70% designed, so we know the big stuff. We are doing a lot of the fine tuning now. We have spent about over $300,000 in private funds in this design engineering effort so that we could be ready for grant applications. We want to make sure that we are securing all the state and federal funding that we can. I'm really happy to remind you that TART did secure a $900,000 federal construction funding through IIJA through HUD, so we will have $900,000 ready to be applied for construction, and again, it can go to either leg as well. So when we look at that overall budget, the piece I guess I want to focus on tonight mostly is construction and maintenance, because those are the parts that we are looking to get commitments from this evening. And why we need to do that is because we will be publicly saying to our funding partners who is paying into what, whose skin is in the game. When you do your initial application, you're allowed to say, local funding, public and private. As you move through that grant application process, they want you to dial it in more. They want to say where those funding sources are coming from. So big picture funding, the way we approach things, and we've talked about this, is 60-40 is generally how we try to approach these public improvements. It is a public-private partnership, so TART is definitely there with $5 million that we anticipate raising for this. To date, we're at a little over $730,500. And again, we did secure that $900,000 federal piece, which will show up in the green pie. I'll show you a more broken down funding. That's a little more fun and colorful of a pie that shows how that $12 million gets broken out. So we're going to need everybody's funding to make this pie work. We've done this is how we've approached kind of all our other projects. If you look at the Boardman Lake Loop, Sleeping Bear Heritage Trail, Acme Connector Trail, the recent Parkway project, this is generally how things get split up. It covers everything from construction and maintenance, conceptual design, and we do have a maintenance piece, as you saw earlier, $500,000 that we are putting as part of this. That gets put into a long-term You can do an endowment or long-term investment so that it's generating interest and can be applied to your year-round maintenance. And what you see there in local match is what I'm here to ask for tonight. So we are asking for you to make a $1 million commitment to this project. Those funds would be applied to construction and maintenance. We'd ask that you keep them flexible depending on kind of where we can get those funds in from. You can see that other local, state, and federal, we are still looking and working with East Bay Township on different state and federal funding sources. We do have the appropriation, we have the asks. In February, a TAP application went in, if you remember that. We're in the midst of revising that with MDOT because they have a lot to say on what they want to see funded and how it gets funded and what can be matched. They're pretty detailed. So we're continuing to work with them, and we'll have a June revision that goes in to MDOT as well. In August, we will be needing to go back to the trust fund and talk about where the funding is coming from. And so tonight, what we're here to do is ask for your piece of the pie so that we can put this forward. This is the type of information we would be putting in public back to our funding partners. So this investment is about getting that public infrastructure on the ground that you guys have been working right alongside us with since 2006. This isn't anything new or anything really different than what we've been talking about since 2020 in terms of this project, but now we have it dialed in. We know where it's going, we know what it costs. We're trying to keep those costs, maintenance in particular, contained in the long term. Part of why this trail has the price tag it does is the conditions it goes through. There's a lot of boardwalk there. So working with the Conservancy, we've tried to shorten it as much as possible, go direct as much as possible, and we are looking to use concrete boardwalk. There are some different ways that we can approach that. It's a little bit easier to build construction-wise. You can do it better than a timber boardwalk. It lasts a lot longer as well. So the replacement and the maintenance costs, the annual maintenance in particular, are significantly reduced. So that we're trying everything we can to make sure that what we build, I think you said it, Matt, why don't we build something that can just last? Let's just keep it going and let it last those 30 years instead of having to replace those boardwalks pretty consistently when we're in a wet, shaded environment. So that's what we're here to ask for tonight. I don't think that number was in your packet, but now it is. And then the next steps would be after tonight, after securing the resolution, we'd be coming back with easements and maintenance to talk about for the trust funds. We have one easement that TART is working on right now with a private landowner. They've had, it's going through the courts, not because they don't want to, just because they had a death in the family, so they're working through probate court. We've been working with them since 2020. We have purchased it already. They're very excited. It's just taking its time through the courts. And then, of course, the Conservancy, as being the major landowner here, would be developing that easement in partnership with the township as well. As I mentioned, we have the TAP grant that we are going through revisions with right now with MDOT and tweaking. So we'll have another revision. It's kind of a rolling application period for TAP. So you just kind of listen to them, revise, apply again. So we're in the system, and we look to June to finalize that. We will be finalizing engineering, and with that, continuing to seek to apply for additional public funding opportunities, both at the federal and state level. So that's it. I've got Claire here if you have questions, and I've got Elizabeth Calcutt, who knows all the numbers and is happy to answer any questions you might have as well.
If I could just start off with a quick question. You had mentioned the flexibility between construction and maintenance. Is that funding also flexible as far as the year that it is implemented?
Yeah, we are not expecting construction to start. I mean, we'd love it to start in 2025 if possible, but likely 2026. So your fiscal years, that $1 million could go over 2 fiscal years.
Okay.
So, or 2 years, 2024, 2025, 2026. So I think you guys are in the midst of your fiscal years.
Okay, are there questions for Julie?
I guess the big question is, this is what we got in our packet, Julie. Just saying that it would all be presented
Yes.
tonight.
Yes.
So that's a big slap in, in our faces right now, $1 million ask. It's not necessarily unattainable, but I guess for one, I know you probably didn't get it either. I would have liked to have known about this before tonight's meeting, at least I had a number to put things to.
Sure.
When, I guess I was thinking 100,000, there's a whole lot more zeros.
A couple more zeros in there, yes.
So I don't know that I'm prepared to say yes to $1 million without having a little more time to digest it. Does that make sense? I mean, I know your
Sure.
time frame looks like you've got to have everything in place for June.
Yep, we're looking for June.
And I understand what you're saying. I didn't realize that you thought it would be maybe that
No,
low.
I didn't know.
Because we've been talking about the 12 million for a while, and also Garfield's contribution, just in like looking at parallel projects. Garfield had, I'm not sure, I can't remember. 800,000 on the loop.
Right.
So, it was kind of pretty similar to that. And I definitely wanted Julie to kind of put it all in context with all of the funding, rather than just pull out that one piece, but be able to show how it's a portion. So if every dollar we spend, what are we bringing in then?
You're looking at 11, you're matching it by 11. So every buck gets 11 in of outside funding, private and public.
And then the other item too, so, we're familiar, we get our funding packets every month. We know that we're projected to have about 5 million in fund balance. So we've got more than 2 years' worth of fund balance. And so I didn't, I think we certainly have a sufficient fund balance to be able to reach this. And I will say, when we first started looking at this, and I knew how much Garfield had put into the Boardman loop, I was nervous because I think that was even before COVID funding, before we knew what the COVID funding was. And I thought, that's gonna be an ask. But, I think last year was the first year that we have actually spent some of our fund balance in our planned budget, that we have actually had expenditures over revenues. And that's because of the Arbutus Lake Number 5 project. So that's the first time we've done that. So for consistently year after year, we have had revenues over expenditures in building up that fund balance. So just a couple points with that.
How much remind me, because I didn't look it up, how much did we,
ARPA?
no, the sewer line? How much did we commit to?
Completely different funds. So the sewer funding will come out of the enterprise fund, and we have like 14 million in there, I think. Actually, if you recall, when we looked at, we've said 1 million in there, and then, of course, we have to do the gap with Acme Township. And when we looked at how we would fund that gap, the rate analyst said, we're in the position with the sewer fund. Sorry to take a diversion here for a second.
Fascinating.
Well, you're one of the few people who do that. Because once you start talking sewers, people are pretty much like, yeah, whatever. But we're in the position where we can actually pay cash for our gap on the sewer. I don't know that we will, because if we pay cash right up front, then we'll probably bond for projects in the next 5 or 10 years. We're thinking, let's just take advantage of splitting those costs with Acme, bond now and pay cash for the later projects. But all in all, what that comes down to is it's completely separate pots of funding, and it has to be legally that way. So we're good with the sewer fund. And this would be out of the general fund balance, which is sitting at about that $5 million mark. Other questions for Julie or questions for Claire?
Where are you on the amount that you've collected? You know, you're asking us for $1 million, but what percentage of your 12.5 million have you gotten commitment from?
Sure, we've raised about 1.630,500. That's where we've gotten so far to date. Yeah.
Little ways to go.
Yep, got a ways to go, yeah, yep. And the bulk of that, obviously, 12 million sits within the construction and maintenance, so,
So if you have any friends,
yeah, that's right.
let her know.
That's right.
And I think that's a good question, Matt. I'm looking at that pie chart. They have the 900,000 that's in the light purple. The piece that they're going after right now is that orange and gray. And and I saw Sue taking a picture of that too, Mindy. We'll make sure and send this PowerPoint out if we can.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you send it over and?
It's already, yep, we sent it to Claire to make sure she could.
Okay,
have it up
perfect,
there. Yep.
perfect. So that orange and gray is what they're going after now, and that's those funding pots in the grant application as you go through. Julie mentioned dialing in. They need to know that blue to do the orange and the gray.
And then the TART part, that private, is the other 40%. So, yeah, we do have, while it hasn't come in, that's generally how projects work, because you can't really submit for grants until you're well into engineering. So the 3.8 million is in review right now.
Mindy?
How confident are you in that we're going to get that 3.8 mil?
There's a lot, I'll just say from my perspective, I have a very healthy respect for Julie Clark and Glenn Chown and their organizations in pulling projects together and making things happen. We are very blessed in this region, and I'm excited about the possibility. As well, I'll say, not that this means anything, but the DNR Trust Fund meeting in August, and we're in their application cycle for this year, will be held in East Bay Township this year. And they will be taking a tour of the Conservancy property. So not that guarantees absolutely nothing. We're one applicant just like everybody else. But visualization is very powerful.
We have a really good track record, Mindy, and we've been engaged with MDOT for well over a year, almost 2 years now. Actually, more than that, 2006, honestly, we started conversations. So this isn't a new project to MDOT either, and they've been working very closely with us to make sure that we can find that funding. They're aware of how we approach projects, that's 60-40, and they are great to work with. So we have a really good relationship with MDOT, both at the TAP office as well as others. So this would be a humongous grant for TAP. So I expect that we'll be looking for other sources within MDOT to come up with that $3 million ask. But I feel very confident with MDOT and with state dollars because of their conversations about investments in, cleaner energy, recreation, and health, as well as non-motorized transportation. And in particular, if I want to, or any way you want to talk to the governor, there's this idea that we should be doing placemaking and helping secure population and grow Michigan in terms of people and place. Ours is the only region kind of above the knuckles that's growing. And so the pledges that are being made in Lansing, and you can take them for what they're worth. But I expect I will be pushing for them to be worth about 7.5 million, because this is the type of infrastructure, this is the type of investment you need if we want to be a healthy, prosperous Michigan in 10, 20, 30 years. These are the type of facilities that people are looking for when they move. When they move to East Bay Township, people want ways to get around. They are not content with turning this into the next downstate suburban area, and I don't think you are either. That's not what we want to look like, and that's not how we want to grow. So providing these type of corridors and these type of recreational experiences, I think, are critical to making sure that we are moving forward as a community and a region, setting the tone.
Question. Did you apply or receive any funds from the county? They had that, the ARCA funds, and then now they got the marijuana funds.
We did, Glenn, and the ARPA took a little turn there on how they were distributed, so we will continue to go back for them. If you see that 1.8 million of local, state, federal, other, yeah, we'll be going to the county as well for support. Absolutely.
Although we have no complaints over the ARPA awards because we have a $2 million commitment for the sewer. Tracy?
It all works out.
Can you talk about, you talked about we could do it over a couple of years.
Mhm.
Do you know how you need the money, like a third? Because essentially if we split it into three, because you said 26.
Yep.
It's 333,000, it's a third each year, or can you, wait till 26, till construction to get the million, or?
Yeah, you wouldn't need to be putting in any cash until construction was ready. So
And that's
2026
Probably
is,
2026.
I mean, I'd be delighted to come screaming with my hair on fire, yay, Safe Routes is in, and yay, we can do this leg, can you do, 500 now? But no, I don't see this happening until 2026. Elizabeth usually keeps me rational, despite my,
enthusiasm.
yes, thank you, thank you.
Well, just because that gives us 3 years, and right now, money is pretty good.
Yep.
Rates are pretty good, so if we know we can lock it up for 3 years, that gives us, a little bit more to work with.
Yep. Time is on your side right now, so really, I apologize that it felt sudden, and, I know this was a large ask, and it wasn't in the packet, but we wanted to make sure that we had context and the ability to talk to you about the other funding sources and timing, because this isn't hey, we need a commitment, and oh, by the way, it's due tomorrow. That's not the way this is being approached. It is painfully slow in some days. Glenn, I'm looking at you because I've been in your office for 14 years, and then Beth came along, and I went to her office. So this is a long time coming, and we don't want to rush anything, but we're excited to have a commitment and hope to be able to get that tonight so we can continue to move forward, because it really is a step-by-step process, and I can have all the confidence in the world, and I will go forth with it. But right, that commitment means that the project has to happen too. So it's not like you're on the hook if the project can't be fulfilled.
We've been very fortunate, as I've watched this project come along, that we haven't put any funding towards it yet. And again, I appreciate TART's energy and proficiency in figuring these things out, because it is it's like a jigsaw puzzle that happens before you in live time motion with all the pieces moving. And I know that it can be done because we've seen trails in other areas, and this isn't any different, and the funding pieces aren't much different. But it's been very nice that we've been able to come this far with the project, and we haven't had an investment yet. We have we have supported it, and it's been easy to do so because we haven't had an investment in it. But now is the time when we say this really means something to us and to our community. That's my perspective. Other questions or comments?
The estimate that you've got on the project, is that based on a 2026 construction? Just best guess on
Yes.
inflationary
Yep,
costs?
it's got some inflationary factors built in.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
trying to hold on to that one.
Well, you are looking then for a motion to commit for those funding sources to prove to TAP and DNR Trust Fund that we are a viable partner as well. And I would move to approve East Bay Charter Township funding commitment of $1 million to be dedicated to the 3-mile trail.
I'd support that.
Okay, then I guess I'm not adding any other clauses, so we'll do that. But I will say, if I could, then we'll just do questions. The intent is, and happy to put this in the minutes as well, Ann, is that that this funding can take place over a couple years, that we are looking to have it fully funded by approximately 2026 with construction, and that we would be looking at expending this from general fund balance. So Glenn, did you, or further questions?
I guess, I'm having a hard time. $1 million is a lot of money to come out of our fund balance. I would like to see within the motion, is it possible to do 4-year? Is that a possibility? Because I would like to see the 250 every year put away for the 4 years. That would take care of probably our fund balance every year. We wouldn't be building, but we'd be putting it away toward this project. I think the project's needed. I think it's very important, and we've talked about
Yeah.
it. I wish you wouldn't use how many years it's been.
And I think,
But I just, if we had to cough up $1 million now, I couldn't support it.
Yep.
But if we can do it over a 4-year period, and that way we can take $250 a year and put it in a segregated account, so when it comes time, the money's there.
so I think that that's something that we could take a look at doing. I will say, Glenn, you should take some pride and achievement in the fact that, when you were supervisor, the fund balance did build considerably. And I think you should be proud of the fact that there's fund balance to spend on a project like this that has been well supported in the community and has been in such a long time growing, long time of development for the project. So we absolutely have the $1 million to do it, but I know it's an uncomfortable feeling. So I
Very
think that,
And I want to see the thing pass, so I
Yeah.
guess what I would
Yeah.
ask is motion added that we put over a 4-year period is $1 million.
we could look at doing that, even starting with the budget amendment in this fiscal year
Yep.
as well. So it would
Yep.
be 2024, 5, 6, and 7. So
That would, I think,
I would revise my motion if I can, instead of voting on it, voting it down. But if it's fine with everyone else, I'll just do this kind of casually. And I would revise my motion to approve East Bay Charter Township funding commitment of $1 million to be dedicated to the 3-mile trail project, with $250,000 being dedicated per year over the next 4 years, beginning in fiscal year 2024. Tracy, would you support that? Okay, so the motion has been made by Friend and supported by Bartlett. Are there further discussion or questions? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Ann?
Friend,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Lyle,
Yeah,
Walters,
Yes.
M. Cortade,
No.
S. Cortade,
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank you. because
Having a heart attack here.
I need my high blood pressure.
way back when? Because I do.
this is a lot of work, a lot of collaboration, and a lot of years, and it will mean a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I remember Beth spending time, I think, in that conference room with Road Commission and GTA and Norte and its youth being like, okay, how do we get this done? And I remember GTA being like, okay, next year. I think that was 8 years ago. So we got this, slow and steady, and I thank you guys very much for this investment, because what you're doing is investing in your community, and we are grateful.
Well, thank you for your work on this, and thank you for your collaboration. Well, you did mention next steps,
Yes.
so
Next steps will be coming back to you in June.
could you flip to that slide real
I'm happy
quick?
to, yeah. This has to do with the easements. This is, again, things that are going to be required in our grant applications, with East Bay saying, yep, these are our easements, and yep, we're going to be maintaining these. That's why that maintenance fund is built in there. And that's exactly what's been done with the loop and with Acme Connector Trail. Thank you, Mindy, for going out and helping clean. Tart Trails continues to have an ambassador program on all of our trails, and it will also be on 3 Mile. And I'm going to guess there are going to be some goats involved in something on this 3 Mile trail that'll be unlike any others. So we'll be back in June, because those will be required for the DNR trust fund applications in particular. We'll be working to finalize engineering, so all of those estimates keep getting tighter and tighter. We did try to go on the very conservative side, because though you may not know it, this is my least favorite thing to do, is like being up here asking for money. I prefer a one and done on that account. But we will be continuing to nail those down, and letting you know about the other applications and funds that we'll be seeking. So we're excited to keep going with you, and we really can't wait to see the safe routes start up. I just think it'll be, you guys are going to be looking at a whole different way that this community looks, feels, and functions, and I'm just very grateful for that support.
You coming back in June?
Yeah, we'll come back in
for
June.
more
Just don't ask
Not for more money. No more money. No more money. No, no, no.
It's just $1 million a month, Glenn. I mean,
Can I just state, I appreciate all the work that's put into it, but please partner with us a little sooner than last minute. Give us the information sooner than later, so that we have time to digest it.
well, you can definitely put that on me, because,
We had all of those letters from concerned individuals telling us to fund it, but we didn't have a number yet. They knew, or.
I don't know if
seemed
they,
to have a
I don't know if
better
they
idea.
knew.
We knew, yeah, we knew what we were asking.
But again, we wanted to put it in context, and again, we had seen the $12 million number before and the 60/40 split, so we
maybe
kind of
some of us
thought,
had a better idea than others. I would just appreciate that we received
Sure.
something sooner.
sure, sure. All right, well, thank you. And Claire, would you mind sending that PowerPoint out to the board? Awesome, thank you. All right, and then just, if you would remind me to put this on the agenda as well for June, so. Okay, with that, we will move on to planning and zoning position, planning and special projects coordinator. So this agenda item, part of this agenda item was in the budget for the fiscal year 2024. Thank you for being here. For 2024, because we knew that a fellowship, and we would have decreased capacity in planning and zoning from August on, from when the fellowship was ending. So we did fund a portion of it into there for 2024. And Claire and I wanted to bring this to you so that we had ample time to advertise, conduct interviews, and do all of those good things. Claire, do you want to go over this maybe a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, you've got the draft position in front of you. It'd be full-time. It would report to the Director of Planning and Zoning. As you'll recall, we did have 3 people in the Planning and Zoning Department about a year ago. We've since, we currently have 2 full-time plus 2 fellows, but I think just with the amount of work that we've got going on in the township, we've got a lot of development, we have a lot of land use permits, we have enforcement activities with the short-term rental program, all of the special projects. We are a busy and growing township, and so I think having the 3 people and staffing the department full-time was, from our perspective, a good number, kind of keeping us moving and not feeling like we're buried. So this position, it's anticipated that the staff person would provide support to the Parks Commission. So right now, that's a consultant that's providing additional support. We're looking at bringing that back in-house and having this person staffing the Parks Commission. Also looking at having them serve as an advisor to the food incubator program, including farmers market and community garden. So they wouldn't necessarily be the coordinator that's out managing the market and the farmers market and the community garden, but overseeing that and serving as staff for that. We're also looking at using the revenue from the short-term rental program to help fund this position, and we do have revenue allocated. And then also assisting with special projects and grant coordination. And as I'm sure you've kind of noticed over the last several years, we have received significant number of grants, and it's great to have the additional revenue coming into the township, but just managing those grants, it's a lot of time just with the reporting and just making sure that we're moving all of those projects forward definitely takes quite a bit of capacity, so.
Okay, so what we are looking for here, again, with that allocation that we had in this fiscal year, that equates to a $63,000 a year budget. And we are looking at supporting some of that through short-term rentals. So what that would happen is we would do a fund transfer from short-term rentals for 25% of that cost, and that would come into the general fund to help offset the cost of that. Are there questions for Claire or for myself? Sure.
I think we should add to the just job description, the grant writing and the grant management
As a background experience.
Yeah. Because there is a specific skill set that is there that might.
Yep, definitely a
key
skill
on-
set. Thank you. We can add that.
Okay, other comments or questions? Okay, go ahead. Yep. Go ahead,
Question
Glenn.
I have is, you got salary range listed at 63,000. Does that include the insurance and all the benefits that go with it?
No, we usually just include in that
Oh.
line item the salary.
Okay. I guess when I'm looking at them, want to see what does that position cost the township?
Yeah.
And we're only getting a portion of it, and I don't know how much.
Yeah, so you can, I just looked at that today, it depends if who's hired, obviously. There are some employees who don't take benefits, there are some employees who take benefits for themselves, some who take them for a family. So all of those impose different costs. But in general speaking, if you were to have an employee who took insurance for themselves and it included their dental, vision, all of that, and the smaller insurances like the short-term disability and so forth, you're at about $1,000 a month for them. And
Even what the person's age is.
It-
Because it
true.
escalates by their age.
True.
And if they have a spouse
That's.
or family.
And I based that on an example of an older individual that we had here. So that's, I didn't base it
What does a
on.
family run about?
It all depends on age, it's all age-based.
Isn't there
A
a-
younger individual could cost $400 a month for healthcare benefits. An older individual could cost $1,000 a month. It's all based on the age of the individual
So you're-
and the dependents.
Okay.
Probably looking at about 1,300 to 1,800 is my memory from
I was
looking at
thinking
those.
insurance was like about 1,700 a month for individuals or family?
Yeah,
It all depends. It's all across the board.
Is that
11%.
up there, though? I mean, when you say $1,000 a month, that's awful cheap for insurance as far as
So
I'm...
I would,
when I looked at an individual who was 60-ish, and it was an individual who was about $880-some a month. And then you throw on the dental and the vision is very inexpensive. Short-term disability is very inexpensive as well. When you look at when you look at having a family, that is correct. When you look at having a family, you're looking at more of that $1,300 to $1,800 range.
That's what I was thinking.
You were thinking of family,
Right.
yeah. And with that, generally, I think probably like family of 4 is roughly, but again, it all depends. It definitely depends. And it depends who takes the position.
Okay,
But we can in the future provide that information.
Actually, what I would like to do is take not the individual's cost, because that would be unfair to who you
we don't
hire.
base things on the individual, we base it on a position or a department.
But what we really could be doing, which I think would be helpful and is really appropriate to determine what the cost is for that department, is we would take things like the healthcare over the total, and the long-term disability and the short-term over the total, and then divide that by the number of people, and then you back charge that to the department. So if there's 2 people in there, you would charge 2 times that standard amount. So it may be higher or lower, really, if you were specifically looking at John Smith and Jane Doe who work there. But you do it on an average, and that gives you the cost to run the department.
okay, one other question.
Is
This will be 4 people
Mm-hmm.
within the planning and zoning then, right? You got 2 in there now, plus yourself, it's 3, and then you're adding 1 at 4.
No,
Well, so this position would begin when the fellowship ends, the CEDAM fellowship.
Oh,
So,
in other words, the fellowship would go away and this,
yeah, so right now we do have 4 because we have 2 fellows, but both of the fellows are going to be ending this late spring/fall. So we're looking at long-term having 3 people in the
well, my
department.
question was, where are you gonna put all these people? That was the
Yeah,
question.
Yeah, we will be kicking one fellow.
Is there,
we won't need, well, the 2 will be leaving, so there'll be 2 more empty desks.
okay.
So you don't have to find another place to put
Well, I
them.
thought you said they were leaving whenever in the fall, this person be starting.
Yeah, this position starts right when the CEDAM fellowship ends.
Oh,
So it's
okay,
basically
okay.
a pretty smooth
That's fine.
transition. And a lot of these responsibilities are similar to the CEDAM fellow responsibility, so there would be a transition period there.
See, that's why I'd like to have a conversation about expanding this building, because yes, it works now, but what are we looking at in the future?
So we don't have the $1 million shock and we put the money away.
There you go.
And actually, to that end, I've talked with a couple different firms, but in particular Cunningham Limp, who I didn't see their presentation at MTA, but they did have a presentation on community center development, and they can do a plan. So I've talked with them about potentially putting in our CIP that we have a plan developed. So right now, we have enough office space. We did have to create those 2 spaces in the copy room, but they came out pretty decent, and they're nice places to work. So we have that expanded room. However, that's not necessarily going to hack it for the next 10 years or something like that. So I think what we could do is have someone who does something similar to, like Cunningham Limp does, to come in and talk with, the supervisor, the clerk, the treasurer, trustees, staff, about what resources they might see needed in the future. They develop a plan, then you put a date on that plan, and then you fund that and start to figure out how to pay for that in the future. So,
Similar to what we had done at the fire station.
I would just, can I make a comment?
You're going to.
I am. I really think that the Sedum Fellow has shown us what capacity, additional capacity does for us as far as getting things accomplished. I mean, granted, you have to have the right person, so, I mean, I would assume, get the right person, but I think that just gave us a taste of what, someone that has the skills and the capacity to hit the ground running does, because they've done a lot in the short amount of time that they've been here.
Well, we would have been in a little bit of a lurch, and Claire and I would be way more tired and exhausted had we not had that fellow in during the short-term rental time when we were transferring from host compliance to Gov. I'm going to say ClearGov, but that's wrong, GovOS. I mean, it would have just, on top of the workload that we have, it would have been insurmountable. So that expanded capacity is huge. And yes, there are plans that we have, that Parks Commission has, that the township has, that we're able to implement with the expanded capacity, sure.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Are there comments on posting this and moving forward with this?
Well, I don't have a problem with the position. I struggle with and I know you don't like the term, but the interference with the Parks Commission, because they are a duly elected board. I keep bringing that up. And if they come to us and request support, that's one thing. But when we create a position that's supposedly dedicated to them, I think that would be their decision. And that part I wish wasn't in the duties. We've had, you're right, we've had 3 people in there before. I mean, that's what, to use a name, Leslie was in there and then moved her on to a different position. So her position basically has been vacant. And so, but.
And you raise a good point. I think that obviously we will talk with the Parks Commission about internally staffing the Parks Commission again. So when that has been staffed internally, whether that was myself or whether that was Jake, we served and did what the Planning Commission moved forward. The Park Commission moved forward. So it's there to give them a resource. They are 7 individuals who meet once a month for a couple hours. If you weren't doing that, things would not be getting done. And so what we're implementing is their decisions, and it's through their rec plan, and it's through their motions, and it's through their discussion. I think that with this position, certainly what we can do is if that isn't the desire of the Parks Commission to have that internally staffed, and they would want to continue to consult, we absolutely have the workload to put into this position. But I think it's a good start, and then we can have that discussion with the Parks Commission as well. Yeah, Sue?
I feel your pain, the growth that you are feeling and you are dealing with. Elections, I'm doing the same thing. I totally understand the overwhelm, the exhausted. We get that. I'm not begrudging that at all, because I'll be coming to the board on how we can make that work better in the future too, because the growth is not going away. I was happy when I had the conversation with Beth today to hear that our consultants that we've been using, that part would become more in-house, because I think that although we've had great service from these consulting firms, I think having it in-house makes more sense. But I do feel the pain of where are we going to keep putting these people as we continue to grow. So I'm also happy to hear that CIP level discussion will happen, hopefully sooner than later. I guess I just wanted to make sure that, you know, I am supportive of it. I am feeling the pain that you're feeling with that growth too.
I would think, we've got 63,000 on this, and I think that we can post it with that. And then you would,
We would likely do a range when we.
what would you like the range to be, Claire?
Um,
Knowing that that's around where we want to end
Yeah,
up.
I mean, I would think a little below and a little bit above.
60 to 65?
Yeah.
Okay. We can do that, and that was a little bit why I asked the question. Yeah.
Could I make sure that it has, the job description does state the
The
part that
grants.
Mindy put in?
Yep, I've got that in there, grant writing and grant management.
So we'll put another bullet point under the, because that doesn't, it is in the duties, so we'll put another bullet point under the knowledge, skills, and abilities that deals with that. And then we'll be probably posting this in Michigan Association of Planning, I would think, MTA and so forth.
Yep, and locally.
Okay. With that, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the planning and special projects coordinator position with the added bullet of the grant writing. Posting the position with a salary between 60 and 65 and conduct interviews.
Support.
Okay, motion is made by Walters and supported by Lyle. Is there further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by no? All right, very good. Thank you, Claire. Appreciate
Thank you very
your
much.
work on this. Okay, with that, we will move down to East Bay Ambulance. Nick Lemkool, our ambulance director, is here. And we have Station 9 on the agenda. We also have the fire chief, Paul Mackin, here, so glad to have him with us this evening. This is something that you have seen before and that you have already approved. I think it was like $7,500 towards the architect and doing the work and so forth. But do you want to take it from there, Nick?
Yeah, so it's been about a year. I think it's actually over a year. I think we did it in March of last year is when we started this project. They ran into some issues on trying to figure out how to make the fire codes work with the way the station's set up and the infrastructure that's out there as far as water and things like that. So with the design they came up with, you guys have in your packets, basically it's putting 2 dorm rooms on that east side of the office building, and then they have to put exterior doors for egress due to the lack of fire suppression in the building. And they can't sprinkler the office because there's not enough water out there with the well. So if they were to do that, they'd have to put a whole pump room, and we're talking a whole lot more stuff that would be needed to do. And then we went out for bid. We had one bidder respond. The other bidder that talked about putting in for it was just too busy to do anything else right now. So we had one bid from Grant Travers Construction for $174,500. And they said that they could start in the first week of June, and it'd be about a 3.5 month project.
Do you?
Sure. Mindy, go ahead, and then we'll go to Tracy.
So the architect think that was a good price.
Yep.
Really? Okay. I thought it was a little bit on the high side, but when you don't
Well,
have people.
and that's the other problem too, is it's steep, and it was a whole lot.
I thought it was.
Well, compared to the last side that we did, there's a lot more to it now because you have to do the exterior doors, the walls, all of that stuff is included.
Yeah, I mean.
Sorry, I didn't
There's
plan
a
on.
concrete pad put outside, drainage and all that stuff.
Tracy?
I think the price is good myself, just from what I know. But do you have a picture of this not all chopped up into?
Yeah.
You know, it would
20
have been.
pages? Because we can't.
Would have been on the, if you looked at it electronically, you would have seen all of it. So, yeah,
It'd have been nice to see that. I
Yeah.
can look electronic.
okay. Go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, you build 2 sleeping rooms, correct?
Yep.
On the east side of the building. Well, we got 2 on the west side. What are we gonna do with those?
Currently, there's one Metro firefighter out there and 2 of our employees, and there may be potential, I don't know what the future looks like for Metro, of adding another staff member out there, or it's gonna become office space for now, until the growth happens.
Well, I guess I got a question. We had 2 years of nothing but bickering about who was gonna pay for what between Metro and East Bay Township. So is Metro gonna pay for half of these 2 rooms? And they'll take the other one in exchange, or what are we gonna do?
So, without dredging up a whole bunch of history, but you are correct. We partnered with Metro on a project a number of years ago where we basically we put in 2 dorm rooms and we each paid half. So basically, we each put in a dorm room. If we pay and put these in, we'd be putting in 2 more. It does need to be done because with one fire person in one of the dorm rooms, the other one for 2 ambulance, doesn't always work. As you've probably seen, they're pretty tight dorm rooms. You can squeeze in 2 twin beds in there, but it's very tight quarters. So we're looking to have the ability to have those paramedics be able to sleep comfortably when they get an opportunity to. And if we paid for this alone, we would have paid for 3 of the 4 dorm rooms. And yes, you're right, if we were fortunate that they were able to, for example, get the SAFER grant that was just applied for and had other personnel, that personnel may be stationed at Station 9 and would utilize that. One option we could do is we could approach Metro for a discussion on partnering with this cost. And actually, it was just at the last meeting, you'll recall, that Metro was talking about Station 8. And Station 8, if you haven't heard, Acme Township has actually purchased a building next to Station 8 and their current township offices. So they're moving to another building. So they're going to be at leasing their station, the Station 8, in a lease that basically is parallel to what we have on our other stations and similar to what the other townships did. They had a building, they're leasing it over for $1 that nobody ever sees, and they'll be utilizing that. There'll probably be some renovations with that, even utilizing that in the interim. They've got some good, as I've heard it called, good clean space in there because Acme Township just did a renovation a few years ago. So they've got like 4 rooms that I would imagine would make pretty good dorm rooms, but I don't know what the fire code is and what the sprinklers are and all that, but that's another story. So they will be going through some of that. And then eventually, maybe years down in the future, it would be a new station eventually, but wanted to get them, I think the thinking is we'll get them in there and get that station functioning a little bit better than it does now, because Station 8's been a big deal that needed to be dealt with, and everybody knew that across all 3 townships. We could ask Metro to partner with us. If we did, I would suggest that we would ask them possibly to do something similar to what we just did with TART, so that we don't shock them with the 174, that we say, listen, if you partner with us, we'll put them in now because the need is immediate. We'll pay for that. And then over your next couple fiscal years, when you can plan out that expenditure, you would just repay us the half. So we would take, what's half of 170, 85,000 or something like that. So they might look at like 40-some thousand a year over the next 2 years or something.
It's still a real sore spot in me over
Well, sure
that
it
whole
is.
ordeal. I don't have a problem putting 2 rooms on, don't get me wrong. I just want to throw this out So everybody's aware of what we went through for 2 years.
And I guess I went way too long in that explanation about Station 8, but the point that I was trying to get to was, I had asked of Metro at that Metro meeting that while we are looking at Station 8, that we look holistically at all the stations, because we have had upgrades, we have had stations built, but we really need to look holistically at stations, where the call volumes are, what the features of the buildings are, what emergency services should be housed in them, what works best to best address those emergency needs of our public. And while that's a big ask to take a look at all of that and takes time, this need is more immediate. So personally, what I'd love to see is that we fund this and we ask for partnership and collaboration from Metro over a time of the following 2 fiscal years, and that they incorporate this into their holistic look of the facilities. While I suggest that, and I do not mean, Chief Mackin, to put you on the spot in any way, shape, or form, particularly in your first 3 months. But would you mind coming and speaking to us about kind of the review you're doing of equipment and buildings? It's a little bit of what you said to the Metro board at the last meeting, but for the benefit of our other board members here to hear.
Thank you. You're exactly right. What we had discussed, part of the plan, when I was brought in, it wasn't too long ago that I was interviewing here in this room, and, to be more specific, I took over in April. So it's been just over a month, about a month and a half. But one of the things that the board had asked of the new chief when they were doing the recruitment is to address the growth, address capital needs with facilities, equipment, in conjunction with that growth, look at development of personnel for the future, all of those sorts of things. So I knew coming in, these are our marching orders. After being here, I've seen, they're 100% spot on. These are absolute needs, and some of these decisions are rather critical, to be honest with you, so that we can get planning because of the time it takes to get these things done. I came in, one of the first things I started hearing about was this Station 8. They've been talking about building for the last 10 years, and
Longer than that.
and the reality of it is even if for someone was to say right now, okay, here's the money, here's the land, let's build a fire station, we're years away from that. And what we need to do is when we're looking at potentially improving the situation at Station 8 with the additional clean space that I've dubbed it, because there's a lot of different thoughts on use it, don't use it, start new, this sort of thing. We have firefighters sleeping in a trailer behind the station. There's a clean renovated space that needs to be remodeled that maybe we can put them in, and then it'll buy us time to figure things out. Another project that was talked about, and again, not a lot of detail, just that, hey, this has been going on for a while. They're looking at doing something at Station 9, bunks, that sort of thing. So I was aware of that just from the previous fire chief, from Pat, just talking about this is something that's going on. Looking at the big picture of things, we have some needs for apparatus. So we're looking at fleet right now, evaluating our entire fleet, which is a large fleet. Of course, when you start talking about changes and increases in pricing, I purchased a ladder truck at my previous organization. We ordered it in 2019, just before COVID. They stopped production. By the time we got it a couple of years later, we paid $1 million for it. They honored the price pre-COVID. By the time we received it, probably close to about 1.5 for a new one, easily in excess of 1.7, 1.8 now for that same truck that we received just a few years ago. So again, with considering the cost of everything, we're looking at our fleet, what's feasible, what is the best pieces of equipment for us to replace, how are we going to use them, and a lot of how we're going to do that is based on call volume and location. So we're going to be addressing that. What was discussed was, when we get done with that, we really need to look at stations. And there's renovations that need to take place at stations. There's potential with the growth in this area with East Bay, Garfield, and even, Acme, is coming along with potential growth, maybe not quite to the scale. We might have to look at different locations. And again, those things take years to plan out. And what we need to do is figure out the best way to do that. And again, what's going to dictate that is call volume. And where are the calls happening in these communities? What's the best location? So that's what we're looking at. And the plan will be to come up with a master station facilities plan in terms of what is our future goals to get ahead of that growth and those call volumes. So.
Nope, that's absolutely, I appreciate that. And while those are big plans, and we support them, and that was a directive when you started, we do have some immediate needs, so we'll, again, I support going forward with this project. And one of the things that I really like about Chief Mackin is, and I haven't talked with him much about this, but enough for him to know that we were going to be talking about it this evening, and for him to be here, and I appreciate that. And what I really like about this gentleman who has taken on being a chief here is, when I briefly mentioned it to him, he said, "Beth, I like to plan things." And I couldn't agree more and be more appreciative of that comment. And that's why I say, maybe because it is an immediate need, maybe we take that on and then we work with Metro on an extended reimbursement when they can plan that, because and this would be something we would take to that board if we had an ask and wanted to, but certainly I'm assuming the Metro board would ask Chief Mackin, well, how does that fit in? So, if it were to fit in, I think it would be reasonable to say, let's do some stepped reimbursement for that. And coincidentally, I might just say, the $1 million on TART and the about 200,000 here, coincidentally comes out to about $1.2 million, which is what we got in ARPA funds. Granted, we didn't have to designate because we took it all in lost revenue. But I will say, I couldn't think of two more worthwhile projects with that. So anyway, I'll leave that. Any questions for Nick? And I am trying not to put the chief on the spot, but.
No, I understand.
Go ahead, Sue.
2 topics. Are the bathrooms going to be sufficient with what we're asking?
Yeah, and I think if we were to change them, we'd be into bigger problems.
Okay,
And
well,
they're sufficient for where
water,
they're at.
sure, I understand. The other is lack of time. Elections sit right in the middle. We need a commitment from the contractor that August 5, we can set up for the election, August 6, have the election, to be able to be torn down for August 7, where they're not working there with their equipment, so that the voters have the opportunity to park to vote.
Yeah, I will check with them to be sure, but I would assume by that point they'll be all inside. But I will follow.
And that's not an area that inspectors or the public go to, I get that,
Right.
but the parking is such a premium. So if they've got their equipment there, those are parking spaces the voters can't use, or the inspectors.
And Derek, the contractor representative, is East Bay Township resident, so he votes out there, so he's well aware of that, but we will have that conversation.
But I would not be doing my job if I didn't make sure it was on Chief's, right on the top of his head and his thought, and as well as yours as the medical director.
Yeah, even if they're still out there, we can have them stop construction for that interim period of time, just so that we can
And that's
use
all
that
I'm
parking
asking. It's just
spaces.
that they're
Sure.
aware that those are committed days for the
Yeah.
residents.
Definitely, definitely.
Okay.
Matt?
So we're looking at a bid, we're talking about a bid of 175,000. But what about contingency? Any engineering, Brian Souza's time, or?
Well, actually, we have the architect actually doing the project management on this. And we've already incorporated in the project management of it, is what I recall. Okay. Did they have a contingency already in that, in the final numbers? I believe,
Better be in there.
right. I believe they already had the contingency in there. Sorry, that's the budget amendments. I don't think that we have that part broken out.
It's
Yeah.
built into the contractor's bid?
Yeah,
Security deposit, federal taxes, and state of Michigan.
They carry a fixed amount?
yeah. Typically, what I've seen in every other contract is like a 10% contingency.
Okay. And what about furnishings?
That, was the furnishings in there?
that in operational expenses for this year.
And there are several really nice furniture companies, one going out of business, where we might be able to get some bargains.
They've also, actually, not that we're asking, but they have also had some great donations made sometimes as well.
Love the table.
People enjoy doing that for emergency services, and who are we to stop them?
That's right.
Mindy?
Can I get the architect to change one thing on the plans, though?
What's that?
We don't have a women's restroom and a men's restroom anymore.
Well, and that's what my concern when I looked at it. One was a full bathroom, one was just a seat and a,
But the signs on the doors now say
Oh,
All
still, the
gender.
rooms are still there, they're just,
Yeah, that was changed this last year, so we may not have known that.
Okay, one way to approach this with Metro is if we have a resolution where we kind of identify the issues. I did not pre-draft that, not quite sure knowing how we wanted to go with this and not wanting to assume. How would you like to
and can I?
move
speak
forward?
first?
Sure.
I agree, the 175 caught me a little off guard too, but I know where we're at. And you made a good point, you just donated $1 million to a bike trail, don't want to Township too, but. And the doors, at first when I looked at it, I thought, that doesn't make any sense. But then you stop and think about it. What are they there for?
They're for egress.
Egress, that's right. So what's the difference if it's a window or a door? Right? That's my, so that settled my question on that. The one room's gonna be awfully dark. It has very little or no outside lighting.
You're supposed to be sleeping.
Yeah, that's right. Very good. I agree with Glenn. I feel the pain too, is even though I wasn't on that Metro board at that time, I come to most of those meetings and all that discussion and all the stuff that was said and everything else over the years. But this is our building, and I think we need to invest in it at this time to move forward, because I would want nothing to give the impression that we want to stop fully funding that fire station out there. So just so you know where I stand, there's been an awful lot of blood, sweat, and tears going into having that building, and then to have it shuttered all those years, and now we're getting a chance to get it restaffed. I think we need to do what we need to do to get that done. So I'm all for this. The only other question I have, and it's totally within your realm to make the decision, but I think East Bay Ambulance, since we're paying for it, should have the new rooms.
So,
Can I add one thing, just because I sincerely appreciate what you said, and I understand that. When we talk about these facilities and staffing and things, again, I talked about call volume, and because I wasn't involved in this project, or even, the need or any of that, so I'm just kind of coming in, like I said, beginning of April, came in, started looking at things. I did look at call volume for that station in terms of Metro, and from January of '23, when we started putting one firefighter out there, round the clock to the beginning of May, we're looking at like 485, 86 days, and we had about 431 calls. So that's like 0.88 calls per day. So, you know, just so you know, I'm just looking at numbers and things. And, you know, there's obviously, it's a community. The bottom line is we have to service, we service the community, we service East Bay heavily. There's a lot of call volumes. Obviously, you're running a lot more calls out of there. Your ambulance service is servicing your entire township from those buildings. So it is a very important, you know, building for you. There's no doubt. And then our Station 1 is in the north side of East Bay, and obviously we run.
Well, then,
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not, I just want, you know, just to mention that. You know, I'm trying to look at numbers and look at things.
And I think that those are fair comments, and that, similar to the road, I think that we look at our transportation engineers and our civil engineers to tell us and guide us on what those best decisions are. And I think very similarly, I appreciate the analytical way in which you'll take a look at what functions best for Metro. And one of the things is that truly Metro should be a no-border district, okay? There shouldn't be in responding to those emergency calls in East Bay, Garfield, and Acme. It is responding to the Metro District. So I appreciate that. And at the same time, I'm glad that we have the funds that we can fill an immediate need where it needs to be. I mean, honestly, while 174.5 is not chump change, it's also not the biggest number in the world when we have a need for our employees who are servicing those calls. The 174, I will just mention to the board where we're looking at taking this, because the Fund 210 does not have this in their fund balance. They have fund balance. However, you'll remember when we do this, the budgeting, we have plans for that, and we have that spaced out on all of our equipment on a rotating basis. And even at that, we're stretching that then and coming up short, and glad when we have grants and glad when we save a little, because it helps that bottom line. So my suggestion is that 174.5 comes out of the general fund number, the general fund balance, rather, I should say. So with that, I guess I would move to award the bid from Grand Traverse Construction in the amount of $174.5 to construct 2 dorm rooms at Station 9 with the funds from general fund balance, and to request collaboration from Grand Traverse Metro Authority under a reasonable repayment plan into the future.
Support.
Okay. There's a motion and support. Any other questions or comments?
I've just got one for Nick. This I would consider, you probably know best, but summer would be the kind of the busy season for y'all. And I know no time is a good time to do a renovation in an active facility, but is the best time to do it during the summer now, or?
Yeah, I think we just need to get it done.
Yeah, sure. Okay. It'll be painful, but, you know, get
Yeah,
through
it's
it.
gonna hurt a little bit, but we'll make it work, and what's that?
Like a year ago.
Yeah, luckily the contractor's willing to work with us and try to make it so we can still use space in that office area while they still do their work.
Just in case somebody didn't realize, and I think you all do, but the reason we've got doors in those dorm rooms is because it would need to be sprinkled for egress, for if there were a fire instance at a fire station. It happens. And the well that we have really doesn't have the capacity for the pressure that's needed for the sprinkler system. So there's other ways to deal with that, and you put a door in. And now they have egress. Yeah, Mindy?
So are you losing 2 parking spaces?
I think they're just gonna move them back a little bit.
Isn't there a sidewalk going in front of there?
There's a concrete pad gonna go out there, outside of those doors.
That they're parking spaces with yellow concrete pillars, right? To stop you from driving in there at that spot? Or is that closer to the
There's a
canyon?
curb there.
There's no site plan there, it was just the building, so I'm curious as to what's going on outside.
Well, even if it does take, 2 parking spaces, luckily we have that space available. While there are high times, we don't build the parking lot for the high times. We do the best we can.
Have to have a 3-acre parking lot for elections.
Any other questions or comments?
We have a motion and support.
Yeah, motion by Cook, support by Friend, I believe.
Other way around.
Oh, motion, I made the motion?
Yes.
Ha, how about that? Motion by Friend, support by Cook. And we'll do a roll call vote.
Friend.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you. And Paul, thank you for being here tonight. And we certainly will try to move forward, dredging up as little of past history as possible, and just, trying to push forward the need for the current dorms and the just request for collaboration, similar to what we're looking for with the roads. So, thank you, guys. We will move on. Hey, you're still here for another one, right? So this is pulled off the consent agenda. This is the Michigan Rural EMS Field Office Project Memorandum of Understanding. Nick, do you just want to explain a little bit what's going on?
Yeah, so Michigan Rural EMS is a nonprofit group. Full disclosure, I sit on the board. The organization is all about funding rural EMS education. So they do a lot of initial EMS education, a lot of continuing EMS education. The skills day that we do here, twice a year, once a year, however often we're going to do that, continually moving forward, they fund quite a bit of that for having instructors come in to teach. And basically what they do is they have these field offices, and they asked us to be a field office, and what they do is they have a trailer that's full of training equipment that most agencies wouldn't be able to afford to buy on their own. It's all the high fidelity mannequins and AED trainers and all of the things that most rural agencies can't afford to purchase, and they set it here at one of our locations, and other agencies within our region can come in and borrow the trailer to use it for training.
Okay, well, the question I had, I read this, and my question was, you got people from Alpena is what is behind this, correct?
They are a field office. They're one of a few, yeah.
Okay, are we gonna be sending our people to Alpena? It's just gonna be standard here?
So basically, the only thing is the trailer's gonna sit here. If somebody wants to use it, they gotta come pick it up.
Okay, that was my question.
Perfect.
Okay, so go ahead.
Do we need cameras on it?
Do we need cameras on it? Probably not.
We don't have cameras where we'll put it right now, so. I am looking at putting cameras there, so, but they're not right
Are we
there.
gonna have any liability if it gets broken into?
No, there's locks on the trailer, and they control all that.
Glenn, you're going to make a motion, right?
Yeah, I would make the motion to approve the memorandum of understanding Michigan Rural EMS Field Office Project.
Support.
Okay, motion is made by Lyle and supported by Walters. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by no? All right, very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, with that, we will move on to G, which is the early voting. I have it here. It is the early voting election voting booths purchase. Sue, do you want to review that?
I can make it fairly quick.
Okay, what's up?
What is these booths gonna look like? Is this something that's gonna be a square-type booth, or is it gonna be something that just pipe and drape, or?
No, we actually use them down in Precinct 1. We have 4 that we have purchased already. They are compacted into a suitcase type thing when they're closed. And then they come up, they expand into looks like 4 pieces of a pie. There's a lower one for someone to come up with a wheelchair. There's a higher one where they have these pieces of pie for secrecy. So instead of one standalone voting booth, there's 4 in a space that takes up relatively small space. And they're, the intent is we will be reimbursed for these through the grant process with the state for early voting. We had to spend the money to be able to get it put in with all of the expectations to get it refunded.
Well, my concern was, when I read that 4 booths, and I'm thinking, and I thought, where are we gonna put them? But, okay, that was my question on that, is what they were. And as long as they're folded up and stuff, you got room to put them then.
Well, right now, they're in the North Conference Room, the 4 that we just got, because they came much sooner than we thought they would. And the other 4 are in the closet here in this end of the building.
Okay,
So you can come take a look at them.
Hmm?
You can come take a look at them.
yeah.
That is the one that I broke my finger on, though.
Is
I
there?
got it caught in the machine when I was trying to put it together election eve, November of 2022, and broke this finger. I couldn't get it repaired until after the election was over.
Is there a motion?
I'd make the motion to approve the purchase of the 4 of them,
Yes.
early voting, election voting booths.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Lyle, plenty of support. We'll pick Walters. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by no? Okay, we'll move on to H, which is the Buildings and Grounds part-time person. So you'll recall that our Buildings and Grounds person, Dan Boersma, when we hired him, we didn't hire a part-time person because we wanted him to be able to pick some people that he could work with, and he did with Mike Sheets. Mike is picking up some extra shifts, not only with East Bay Ambulance, but with another employer as well, and so he's limited in his availability for time. Pat Parker, as you might have heard, has a little more time on his hands lately, and is interested and willing to help Dan in the buildings and grounds out in the field when they have specific projects, so.
Okay, and my question is, the general question is, are we to the point where maybe we need to relook at having a permanent maintenance person? I mean, we contract out lawn mowing in all the parks too? Okay, we contract the snow plowing?
No,
How do we get them the snow plowing if these people are on runs?
so they have backup people. So when Dan knows that he's going to be at the ambulance, he has, for example, Mike Sheets fill in for him. So that's why I would like to have some people on the roster that he can call for, more than one, for example. Like, so now Mike Sheets might be available, or Pat Parker might be available. So that's how we've been able to do it. We haven't had any issues. We did have light snow this year, but Dan did a nice job taking care of the snow. And matter of fact, he just actually took back one of the bathrooms that was just a much easier one, Killingsworth, for him to, so that's not even serviced by contract anymore. He does a good job. He's enjoying doing it and fits in time-wise, and we've been able to save considerably in that department. I was just out with him 2 weeks ago. All the parks look good. We are replacing some fences, so you might have noticed, like at Jen's Park, that part of that fence was out for part of the winter season, but we were just waiting for the Conservation District to get ready with the fencing. Even when Bob was here, who was full-time, we had the Conservation District do the fencing, so that's no different.
Well, that was my concern, especially with both of them working for the ambulance. They technically both could be out when we got a problem.
There could be, but they juggle staffing as well. Dan had just mentioned to me today about one other current East Bay Ambulance EMT that he would like to put on the roster, but I already had this done and I didn't want to add it for you, but you'll probably see that back in a consent calendar. It's an additional person that he would like to be able to call upon when he needs some help. who has the capacity to do that.
Okay.
So is there a motion? Glenn, would you make that motion?
I'd make that motion.
Okay, is there, that motion is to approve Pat Parker as a part-time buildings and groundskeeper at the same rate Mike Sheets earns, which is, as of 5/8, is $23.56 an hour. Is there support? Was that Matt or Matt? Matt, okay. Motion made by Lyle, support by M. Cortade. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by no? All right, very good. Thank you very much. We got through a lot of material tonight, you guys, so I appreciate it.
For $1 million worth.
This is the second opportunity for public comment, so I don't want to miss that second opportunity. If there is anyone who'd like to make public comment. Okay, then we'll move on. Our upcoming meeting date, the next meeting is June 10th. We will have that, we should have that first public hearing for Scout Camp Road. And also, I do want to remind you of the East Bay Beach District open houses, the community charrettes. They are having 2 open houses. One is tomorrow the stakeholder meeting for residents is tomorrow at 10 a.m., lasts an hour. That is held here in the township. District employees will have a stakeholder meeting here at 11 o'clock. And then tomorrow in the afternoon at Harbor Brook Hall, there will be an open house. And that open house is specifically for discovery and information gathering. So you can find these on our website. Actually, right now, we're having a difficulty on our website. So there's actually, it's posted twice for some technical reason that Revise can't quite figure out. 2 times is better than none. So it is available on the website for you.
Before
Yep.
you get to that point, have you heard if they'll be ready to present our audit in June, or are we going to look at?
That's when they're scheduled. They're scheduled in June unless I hear any further. So with that, if there's no objections, then we stand adjourned. Everybody have a good evening. Drive home safe. Thank you.
See what you get to look forward to? Once you retire, you can become.